participants, thank you all so much for tuning in to the latest edition of Asia Brewers Network Talks. I think before we get going, just to kind of give everyone an introduction, if you aren't familiar with us at ABN, we're a resource portal dedicated to delivering brewing news from around the region. We give insights and analysis of industry trends and educational opportunities to breweries across Asia. And I think this series is really talking to people like Yamada-san here, who is a bona fide hero and legend in the Japanese and regional and even international craft brewing scene. And I think one of the things, if you want to see more content like this, more interviews, more articles, more insights, definitely follow us. We really aim to keep you updated on events and trends that really help you guide, whether it's guide your business, guide your personal career as well. And ABN, if you don't already know, is brought to you by the team behind Seabrew. Unfortunately, Seabrew has been on kind of pause, on hiatus because of COVID and because of travel. But for those of you who don't know, Seabrew is one of the best. Personally, I may be biased, but one of my favorite conferences in the region for craft beer, and it's an industry and conference and trade fair as well. And some of the other activities we're part of as well is the Brew King, which is coming up in Singapore. If you're interested, visit our website, Asia Brewers Network. Just type it into Google. We'll be showing up there. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest today, Shiro Yamada. So Shiro Yamada is the founder and CEO of Far Yeast Brewing Company. You may have tried his beers in Japan, in Taiwan, in China. I've had the fortune of trying his beers once in Japan on a visit to the Far Yeast tap room before we knew each other, and also in Malaysia, where I actually tried KAGUA, which is the one of Yamada-san's earlier beers, which he's still working on. And we'll be talking a bit about those brands and more in the conversation today. But Yamada-san, I just wanted to say welcome to Asia Brewers Network Talks. It's great to have you here.
Hi, this is Shiro Yamada, and thanks for your introduction. And I'm very happy to talk to you on this occasion. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you for being here. It's really exciting to have someone like yourself who's been pioneering, and really pushing craft beer, not only in Japan, but I think your story is really interesting, and we'll talk a bit about that today. So I wanted to start off with, how did you get interested in beer and craft beer in the first place?
Yep. Actually, it was like 15 years ago. I was in Europe. I lived in Europe for 3 years at that time, and before coming to Europe, I didn't know nothing about craft beer, and I thought beer is just a commercial beer, like industry beers produced by a large company. But when I was in Europe, I found beer is very traditional. I had a lot of opportunities to travel around in Europe, including some famous beer cities like Munich, Brussels, Czech Republic, Dublin, Ireland, Denmark, some other cities. And every country, every city has a unique beer on that location. That's very touching. I mean, I was surprised to see, a variety of beer is in the world. I didn't, think, beer has a culture like that. Beer has a history like that. So that's the, the start point.
And I mean, I think, did you then, I guess, is that where the idea partially started? Because one thing that's quite interesting about your background as well is, before that, you weren't working in beer, right? You were in quite a different business world.
Yep. I was working for .coms, like internet services and smartphone apps, that kind of stuff. Then I mainly worked as a financial, how do you call it? Worked on the financial side, doing M&A, investment, business development, all that kinds.
So you were like a tech startup, a startup guy, an M&A and finance, and it must have been quite a different world to working in beer.
Yeah, it's very different. On the money side, it was nice. The salary and sometimes you can get an opportunity to get something like capital gains from stock options or something. But it's very busy. That sort of stuff. So it's totally different from the beer business.
But I understand. So it was actually there is a connection to a degree, right, with what happened when you went to study overseas, and it was that kind of part of that journey of you traveling. I mean, tell us about that. Like was it your MBA program where you got your dream started?
Yep. I was in UK to obtain my MBA degree. It's just a coincidence that the university, I went to University Cambridge, and the university has alumni who started up beer business called Cobra Beer. Maybe many of you guys don't know about Cobra Beer since it's not a craft beer, and it's kind of boutique style beer. They mainly focus on brewing beer, matching very well with Indian food. Since the owner and founder of Cobra Beer has an Indian origin, he likes Indian food a lot. He once tried commercial beer with nice Indian curry, and he thought it was disgusting because the beer was too gassy and tasteless. And then he made up his mind to make an ideal beer for Indian food. So that's his start point. It was very interesting, and I thought I could do similar stuff to my background, the Japanese food.
I even saw an interview. I read in an interview with you that you called him. What's the guy's name? Baron? Is it Billy?
I think he's Karan Billy Moria.
Billy Moria. That's right.
Yep,
Sorry, I got that wrong. And isn't he like in the UK government, or he's in the House of Lords or something, right?
Yeah.
But I saw an interview that I thought was very touching, where you said you mentioned that he was kind of like Steve Jobs for you, right?
To me, yeah.
The Cobra story was so inspirational behind your story with Far Yeast.
Right. Actually, he came to our class, to make a speech. The story behind the Cobra Beer. He, started up business from scratch. It includes a lot of difficulties and a lot of efforts to getting into the market and building brands, making beer quality good enough and sort of stuff. It's very good for me to listen to him directly.
And so after that experience of doing your MBA in Cambridge, being very inspired in your travels, hearing about the story of Cobra, what happened next?
Yep, I, came back to Japan in 2006. I started, studying beer, meaning drinking beer. Uh,
Very important. It's a critical part.
right,
Drinking is
right,
studying.
right. And I got to know, I got to know that there are a lot of good beers in Japan already. Japan has unique microbrewery culture called jibiru. That means local beer. There are already 250 breweries in Japan at that time. And then I tried some beer and I found some beers very beautiful and, competitive and, very nice. And then I thought maybe I could do, beer business, but in a different way. I didn't think, I should go for another, good brewery in Japan. I should, set up a, kind of unique beer, no one has tried to do. That's what I thought.
And thus came KAGUA, right? Is that and that was your first kind of foray into making beer. So tell us. So you mentioned before. So you didn't take the Jibiru route, right? I guess of the
Yep.
brew pub of domestic production. You were brewing in, was it Belgium when you first started?
Right.
And why did you pick Belgium? I mean, were you trying to find like Belgian beer? Did you think that matched better with Japanese cuisine, or was that your objective? I mean, tell us about your thinking behind that.
Yep. It's kind of how do you call it? That we didn't choose a Belgian brewery. We just get to a Belgian brewery, um, because at the first time I tried to build a brewery in the countryside of Japan, but it was too difficult for me at that time, since there are not many brew pubs, microbreweries in Japan, so the equipments market are not existing, so it's very difficult to source money to invest on brewery. So that's why I decided to go for a contract brewing. But in Japan, it's very rare for microbreweries to do contract brewing for some other people. Now we have some contract breweries in Japan, but at that time, almost no one did. So that's why we had to look for a brewery who can brew beer for us in overseas, outside of Japan. So and then finally we reached out the Belgian brewery and who has passion and it's nice and very serious to beer sort of stuff.
And so the first beers you were making, I understand, your idea, partially dialing back to that inspiration from Cobra, the idea of pairing food with beer, which, by the way, huge fan of that. I'm a great believer that more breweries need to make beers that pair better with Asian cuisine, right? Because I think there's far too much conversation about beers that pair well with European food. But then whenever we talk about, Indian cuisine, Malaysian cuisine, Japanese cuisine, Korean cuisine, often I've noticed it becomes very, not very complicated. It becomes too simple. And I understand in your case, you were using, is it sansho and yuzu in
Right.
the first beers?
Yep.
I mean, tell us about that. Like, what Are these ingredients? Are these spices, herbs, flavors?
Yep. I think many people know yuzu. It's a citrus, just like orange or grapefruit. But it has very, unique aroma. I cannot express how it is, but it's
It's
not
kind of like very fresh, right? Or like
fresh. Yeah, uh, kind of like cardamom, but not same. Yeah, it's very typical for Japanese cuisine. We put yuzu on anything, like baked fish, or yuzu on soy sauce, or
yeah, it's very
we
nice.
have
I like it. I love it. It's a
yeah,
delicious
it's nice.
flavor.
Yeah, we have yuzu sake, and it's very unique and good flavor. So also sansho is kind of a Sichuan pepper, but it's Japanese grown. We put sansho on yakitori sometimes. It's very good spice for meat.
Is it? I mean, I know this is a very stupid question, but is it the spice that at least in Japanese restaurants, for instance, overseas in Southeast Asia, there's like an orange spice, a dry spice you get. Is it the same thing? It's like a spice you can
Yep,
similar.
yep, same thing. Yep, same thing. Yep. And we use yuzu peel, dried yuzu peel, and crushed it into kettle. So actually, it's almost same when we put orange peel or coriander seeds, into the boiling kettle.
Yeah, I mean, I really admire you for doing that because, to your point, you were taking what you were doing was not totally crazy, right? I mean, you were taking very unique ingredients, but taking it into that more of that traditional European style kind of Belgian kind of brewing with like with orange peel, coriander and things. And I mean, how was it when you first worked and made those beers? What was your feeling? Like, how did people respond to it? Were you happy with the first yuzu and sancho beer you made?
Yep, I think so. I have tried several test batch in Japan before we, started brewing in Belgium. Um, Most of the people who tasted the test batches liked it. And then after I got the real product from Belgium, I found it, much more, beautiful than the test batch. So, yep, I was, fully confident in, selling that beer.
And I mean, speaking of selling it, right? So you had this experience. You did the test batches. You made it. Contract brewed it in Belgium. I'm sure to great expense. Brought that from Belgium to Japan. I'm sure that was very not that I've got some experience with contract brewing across borders, and I know it can be very complicated.
Yeah.
Once you got the beer, how did you release it into the market? Like, did you target restaurants? Did you target craft beer geeks, the craft beer specialists? What was your strategy for your sales and marketing? For the first few years of KAGUA.
My first target, is a restaurant, uh, because, in restaurants, you have, guide people like, service, people, customer ask them, what kind of beer do you recommend? And, they can explain, Kagura is, blah, blah, blah. This beer fit well with this kind of food or something. I think that will help. But the thing is, it's very difficult for me to convince, this kind of restaurant guys. I mean, I cannot easily, persuade people, how this beer is good. It's very difficult because it's a new product and the craft beer is not very common at that time. It's difficult. So that I try to let people taste beer. On my shoulder, I have a lot of beers on the backpack in the backpack, and then I just let people try, and then beer will talk.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's a fair? I mean, there is a stereotype in, even for me dealing with Japanese business culture, that Japanese business people, restaurant owners, might be a bit more conservative. Or to your point, they something new they'd say, well, it kind of needs to prove itself. But it's very interesting hearing that strategy that you basically said, yeah, let the beer talk, and
Yep.
it worked. And did that was that your first few years? Were you able to build it up and up and up just by
Yep.
knocking on doors with your backpack of beer?
Yep. Yep. So after I got the initial 50 or 100 restaurants, fortunately, those restaurants are influential over the, food industry. So after that, it was like word of mouth. Um, Beer can go, by itself. Yeah, that was very fortunate, to get good customers at the beginning.
And by the way, but before we start talking about your activities since then, for instance, Far Yeast, which we of course have to talk about, your next kind of line of beers. Where does the name, I was very embarrassed when I first was talking to you because I was thinking, am I pronouncing this right? Like KAGUA. Where does the name? What does it mean? Where does it come from?
Yeah, actually, KAGUA it's not proper Japanese. It's a word we made up. That comes from two Chinese characters. One means aroma, and the other means Japan. So this is Japanese aroma. That's the meaning. But you cannot find KAGUA, on dictionary. So yeah, it's a new word.
But I think that's really cool from a marketing and brand perspective, right? That you even made the fact that it was Japanese aroma, Japanese flavor, made for Japanese, for pairing with Japanese cuisine. It was such an important part of your mission that you actually gave it that name. That's very cool. And so Kagura you built, and obviously the expansion since then. It's I mean you've exported it. I mean I've had it overseas, so I know it's been exported and been very successful overseas. I mean, what about Far Yeast? Because Far Yeast is a newer project of yours. Tell us a bit about Far Yeast and how it's different. If someone had never heard of Far Yeast before, maybe someone in one of the countries you haven't started exporting to yet. I think a lot of us do know you. There's a big audience of people listening in, and we all love your beer. But I mean, tell us, yeah, how the story behind Far Yeast and how it's different to Kagua.
Sure. I came up with Far East idea when I traveled around to export. I had to travel a lot. I met a lot of people, in Asia, and I went to US or Europe. I met a lot of people in the beer industry, you know, brewers and pub owners, pub managers, or just beer enthusiast industry. I found that the craft beer, the main attraction of craft beer is a variety. Since before craft beer came, it was like a monotone commercial beer from a large, corporation. There is no color, no variety, in the beer industry. So we had KAGUA at that time, but it's still a very, small part of the beer variety. And I wanted to try some more, different aspects of beer. That's why, I kind of wanted to make a new brand. And under the Far Yeast brand, I want to, have a lot of styles and a lot of, new challenges.
And so for, with Far Yeast, the product that you launched, I understand it was more mass market focused. Maybe that's the wrong way of putting it, but more, I guess, was it more focused on easier drinking, or was that, versus, I guess, as a contrast to KAGUA, which is much more intentional, you pair it with food.
Yep.
Is that kind of correct? The kind of
that's correct.
brand position.
Yeah.
I mean, from that perspective, I mean, what kind of styles, when you first started with Far Yeast, what was your kind of style portfolio? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yep. KAGUA is, as I mentioned, as you pointed out, KAGUA is very kind of, food pairing focus, and also it's not very drinkable. Especially in Tokyo, it's very hot in summer. It's it's like a crazy summer, and you definitely need a refreshing beer. So first of all, I want to try a very refreshing beer, with kind of, something like light lager or golden ale style. That became Tokyo Blonde. It's hoppy beer, but still has a very kind of light body. And then the next beer I tried is wheat saison with very fruity aroma, but sharp body, very kind of light body. That became Tokyo White.
Lovely beers, by the way. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
I'm not just saying that. By the way, for anyone listening, I'm not just saying this. I actually was very lucky. A friend recommended me to visit Far Yeast when I visited Tokyo for the first time and last time so far in 2019, and a previous tap room in Shibuya. That was a really nice experience. Went very well with food. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that you kind of wanted to open your own brewery in Japan and had been contract brewing. And I think maybe now is a good time to I can show the audience a video. So Yamada-san very kindly sent a video talking a bit about Far Yeast, which is quite a nice, very short, it's a couple of minutes long, talking a little bit about the story of Far Yeast. And I'll let the video speak for itself. Just give me 1 second, just so I can actually get this video to work.
You are mute.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Was it switching between the video and my screen? So basically the brewery. So tell us a bit about the brewery's location, because it might not be where people expect it is, and why. Because if people maybe don't speak Japanese, why it's all those beautiful running rivers. So tell us a bit about the brewery, where your brewery is located.
Oh yeah. It was in the very small village called Kosuge Village. Just population is 700 people. There is no supermarket, no convenience stores, no pub. There's nothing. Why we chose that location, since that place is the headwaters of the Tokyo River called Tamagawa River. Since we brewed beer named like Tokyo Blonde, Tokyo White, I think we should brew beer somewhere related to Tokyo. So that's why we trace back to the Tama River to upstream, and then we finally reach the place called Kosuge Village.
I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful, and I understand. So you guys are brewing there, I mean, which is really unique, right? To be brewing, I think it's brewing in such a beautiful, picturesque place. And I mean, what was your experience like building a brewery in Japan? Is it easier than it used to be? Was it very challenging? You mentioned earlier getting financing was difficult, early on. I mean, what kind of challenges and journey did you face building brewery?
Yeah, in a way, building brewery and brewing beer is the very fun side of the business. I quite enjoy the choosing brew houses and buying a lot of brewing facilities, including centrifuge or fillers and some other stuff. It's really fun, but money side, it's quite tough, to get enough fund for, purchasing, brewing facilities. And, also we have to think about the labels, working capital. Like once we operate the business, we need some, how do you call it, running time before we get the turnovers. So that's why the financing is very hard, but I did.
No, well, congratulations for achieving it. It must have, after having been contract brewing previously, it must have been a very good feeling to get production, such a beautiful looking production facility. It's very, very cool. And I mean, from the, building that, one of the things that I think you're quite well known for is the fact that you've also been very successful at exporting. And I know that, previously you've exported to China, Taiwan, other countries as well. I mean, tell us about, what's your experience, what's your feeling been like with, Now, obviously, COVID has changed a lot, but at least prior to COVID, you know, how do you think your beer was received overseas? Were you able to? Yeah, it was obviously you were being quite successful in China. Yeah, tell us a bit more about your export journey with the beers.
Mm, yeah. I don't know. So beer is kind of an international language. So my idea is, although we have a language barrier or culture barrier, but in the beer world, we have a common language that is a good beer. So as long as it's good, people will like it. So from the beginning, I want to export our beer to the world. So that's my, main idea. And then to for beer to travel, we have to be very careful about the quality. Then we chose a brewing method called bottle condition. By doing so, our beer has some kind of anti-oxidization, how do you call it? uh, uh, Anti-oxidization.
Yeah, I mean all the
Yeah,
classic issues that come with export, right? Like quality
yeah,
control.
yeah. So we focus on the bottle condition, beer to do, to export.
And I mean, besides, obviously with COVID now that COVID's here and it's been here for a while, how have you seen your business change, and how has your strategy changed both in Japan and also for export? What have you how have you everyone uses this word pivot, pivoting the business, changing the strategy. How have you changed your business to keep up with the current very challenging situation?
Yeah, the last year was a disaster for us. Our main customers are restaurants and bars, pubs, international market as well. We have a lot of restaurant customers, in Taiwan or in Paris or even in US as well. But those, restaurant market is completely, silent uh, under the COVID. So it's really tough. We had to switch our channels from restaurant to the grocery store, supermarket, or bottle shop, but it was not very easy since packaging beer, needs some time to penetrate the market. So it's it's about the brand awareness. People just take a beer in the shelf on the shelf of supermarket, and if they don't know about the beer, maybe they won't buy it. So it's not easy, but slowly, we get some customer base, or supermarket customers slowly.
I mean, one really cool thing I've seen that you guys and that I saw that heard about you guys doing was your barrel aging program, and that not only is it a really innovative project off trail, is that right?
Yep.
Which is off trail sounds super cool. It sounds like I'd absolutely love to try some here. I wish, please export to Vietnam. If any importers are listening in Vietnam, please contact Far Yeast and get us some of this off trail beer. But I think I guess it's a two-part question. I mean, because off trail is really interesting, but also how you're selling off trail online, I thought was really interesting. So can you tell us a bit about those two things, and the project and how it's going?
Off trail actually is my biggest fun right now. I mean, it's outside of the industry beer. It's we use wild micro for this kind of beer. From the wort, we put wort in wine barrels or whiskey barrels. Sometimes wine barrels, went through a sake aging. So we have a variety of microbes inside the barrels. And then none of them are identical. So even from the same batch of the brew, if you put them in different barrels, you get the very different beer. And so we have to taste it, and then we have to blend it to be kind of very how do you call it,
like standardized, or make it at least some commonality. Yeah,
right. That process is also very fun. So off trail, a lot of joy. And it's like my variable toy. It's quite fun. And selling off trail, on the other hand, is not easy, because barrel aging beer is not very common in Japan. Also, we had to put higher price for the barrel aging beer, since the costs are actually very high. It's not easy. It's not beer for the supermarket. That's why we try to introduce this beer via direct marketing, which is an online sales.
and I heard that, as much as you say it's hard, I heard that you guys sold your beer out. One of the off trail, you sold it online, and it sold out very, very fast.
Yep.
So it seems like the response is good, right?
Yep.
And is that common in Japan? I mean, direct marketing, that direct to consumer online sales of. I mean, okay, I know barrel aging is not common, but just generally, is that a common way of selling beer in Japan, or is it still quite new?
Selling beer online is quite common right now, especially trendy styles like hazy IPA, or some very small batch beer. People want to buy those beer online.
Well, that's a good step, and I mean, at least as difficult as the pandemic has been, at least you're getting that joy from this fun project, and you're able to sell it online. And that's good that in Japan it's more online sales, because I know in some of the other Asia Brewers Network talks, other brewers have shared the same challenge as you, where they were very focused on selling in venues and restaurants, and they had to switch to convenience stores and supermarkets doing that, and also selling online. So that's great to hear. So yeah, one of the things that I remember we briefly talked about prior to the conversation, was you had shown me some of the brewers and beer geeks. They might consider. I remember you told me you had some photos you had of your brewery setup.
Yep.
I thought maybe that would be quite interesting for some of the people to see, if you're okay to share those with everyone.
Sure.
And maybe just talk a bit about the brewhouse setup. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, guide us through. So what are these? So what are we looking at here?
Yep. This is the brewery from the outside. This building, in the mountain, is our brewery. It was like 40 years old building. It used to be some kind of assembly factory. You know, assemble the car navigation system or something. But I don't know much about that since it has been 10 years vacant. So I didn't know much about where it used to be. Also, we have a good water source. So this river is just outside of, just behind the brewery. The water is very beautiful, and it's kind of very low mineral water. We just can add some brewing minerals like calcium and not magnesium, just calcium. That's very good. We have fermenters. Now we have 18 fermenters, including 2 BBT. Sometimes we use a fermenter for bright beer tank. So yeah, actually, although we have 2 BBTs, but we can have more, depending on the situation. We started just 5 fermenters when we started the brewery in 2017, and now we got 18. This is the brew house, 3-vessel system, manufactured in China. It's good. 30 hectoliters, brew house. This is my lovely toy, centrifuge from Gear. We actually recently replaced these centrifuges. The old one was not bad, but this is fantastic. I like it. This is a can filler, wild goose, from US. So we actually introduced the canning machine last year. Now we fill more cans than glass bottles. So
yeah, how has the response been to cans? That's an interesting change, right? Focusing more on cans. Has the consumer response been good?
Yeah, I think so. Cans are lighter. It's light protective. So good for the quality. So yeah, many people like cans, but some restaurant customers definitely prefer bottles, so we cannot quit bottle. So well, anyway, yeah, cans are good for us. Finally, I have a picture of the barrels. So on the bottom, there are Kentucky bourbon barrels. On the top, there are maybe French oak, wine barrels. We have like 60 something barrels right now, aging, a variety of kinds of beer. Some are kettle sour, blonde beers, and some are strong, Belgian beer, and some are stout, and some are different. So it's really fun.
I'm very jealous of your setup. It definitely sounds like a lot of fun. Your off trail project, and
yeah,
I mean, now that you've got this beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing these photos. By the way, I think a lot of I saw that our audience ticked up, actually increased while you were showing the photos. So I think all the all of our fellow beer geeks got quite excited when they saw your all the toys in the brew house. But I guess as we move away, as obviously hopefully the worst of COVID will be gone by the end of this year, and things will get back to normal somewhat. The new normal, as the cliche goes. What are your plans for the brands for Far Yeast as a whole? In the coming, what are your dreams in the coming years? Is it building out more styles? Is it expanding into new markets? I mean, tell us a bit more, because you seem like a guy who you've got very clear missions. You've got you have the mission to build KAGUA, you have the mission to build Far Yeast. What's the upcoming missions?
Yep. Now we are working very hardly on the quality control, quality assurance. We put a lot of money on some kind of testing machines, laboratory machines, sort of, and we hired QA staff recently. I think that's very important because we have more customers than before. We have some remote customers, like export customers or some other new customers. So we should more and more be very careful about the quality assurance. And also, if we got a lot of money, I want to replace brew houses with some nice German system. Now, our brew house is nice, Chinese system is very nice, but still, we have to improve, some process, and, we need more kind of consistency, about the quality. So yeah, if we have money, I want to replace it, but we currently don't have enough money for it, so it's a dream. So the other thing is, we're gonna open up a new pub in Taipei, hopefully summer, hopefully in August. Now we've already, made a contract, rent contract. So we are now, doing, interior designing and, construction preparation, sort of.
Oh, that's really exciting. It gives all of us one more reason to go to Taipei, besides going to Japan, and definitely understand as well on the quality control front. I mean, particularly, I imagine now that you're selling to more supermarkets and scaling up production, it's so important. It's so important to maintain that quality control standard. But yeah, look, I've got to say it's been a fantastic conversation, and really appreciate the time you've taken here today, Shiro. It's really appreciated. It's been really great to hear your story and hear the journey that you've taken over the last few years. It's very inspiring, and I hope that some of you listening, you can kind of take some lessons and take some things to learn. And I wanted to ask you one final question. One thing with Asia Brewers Network, we're often, a lot of the people listening in today, people who will watch this video, a lot of them maybe want to set up their own brewery, they want to expand, maybe they're at a small scale now, they want to grow. From your experience in the last 10 years plus of building your craft beer brands, what's the advice you would give to someone who wants to do what you're doing and wants to start that journey? What would be the 1-2 pieces of advice, maybe things you would even tell yourself if you were starting this again? What would be the advice, the wisdom that you would give to someone who's starting on their own journey to build a successful brewery?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I would answer I would be able to answer very well, but maybe so it's I think this is the most important thing, in the beer business, craft beer business. It's we are in the community, so unlike a large commercial breweries, we are we cannot stand by alone, but we can team up with neighboring breweries, and together with some friend brewery, we can deliver a variety of good beers. So my advice is, every time being in the community, you should think about contributing to the community, to get craft beer more fun. That's my maybe advice. Yeah,
No, look, I think that's very good advice.
Thanks.
You know,
Yeah. I don't know if it helps, but yeah.
No, I mean, like, I think, as you said, it's about collaboration, right? And that you don't have to start everything yourself. Like, you don't have to do everything 100% by yourself. There's actually a big community of people out there who want to help as well. And maybe they're in the same situation as you, right? Maybe they've got different expertise. Yep. And I think the community part, collaboration and community, it's key, right? Because I think that's definitely something that we have seen, that in countries and markets where people help each other and it's not too competitive. I mean, competition is healthy, right? As we all know, but also you need also that community spirit, right? If someone has got a problem, and I see that in Vietnam as well, where a lot of the breweries work really closely together now. If they have a problem, they solve it, and it's really positive to watch.
Yep.
But that's great wisdom, and particularly as someone like yourself who's taken such an interesting journey from finance, M&A, .coms, mergers and acquisitions, switching it to craft brewing, barrel aging, exporting, building pubs. It's Yamada-san, it's a very inspiring journey to hear from you. And I just wanted to really thank you today for sharing, being very open and so clear with us, and sharing your journey from all the way from Cambridge to Tokyo and back. It's very inspiring, and I've got to say thank you so much for joining us at Asia Brewers Network Talks today. It's been an absolute honor to have you join.
Yep. Thanks again for your invitation to this, great opportunities. It was really fun to talk to you. I'm not sure if my, talk can help, some other people, but I hope, they enjoyed this, as well. So thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And to everyone who's been listening, we've had a big audience today, one of our largest on any ABN talk. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Again, if anyone's interested, I think we've talked about it a lot, so you have to be not really listening to know, but Shiro Yamada is the founder and CEO of Far Yeast Brewing. He's also involved, he also set up KAGUA, which you may have tried, and Off Trail, his new barrel aging program, which I'm very, very excited to try. But if any of you are in China, Taiwan, Japan, you can get his beers. You can go online. They're on Facebook at Far Yeast Brewing. If you go onto Google, you can type in Far Yeast Brewing as well to learn more about Yamada-san's journey. So Yamada-san, thank you again very, very much. And thank you all today for everyone tuning in. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube to see more content like this. So signing out from the ABN team. Thank you all for tuning in today.